Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We are just admitting everyone in from the waiting room, so great to have you on board. If you are not already, please do pop yourselves onto mute. There will be opportunities to kind of ask questions later on in the chat box, but for now, if you could just pop yourself on mute, that way it means that Lauren and I don't get distracted by cats and dogs and children and goldfish, so it's a lot easier that way. Brill. As we all start to filter through, I would just like to quickly plug, if you aren't already following us on Enactus UK social media, then please do. It's the best way to find out all of our upcoming opportunities, just like the Employability Fair, loads of different things that you can get involved with. So please do follow us if you have the time to. So fantastic. Okay. And then, as you'll have realised, the Enactus UK Employability Fair is an opportunity for 14 of our corporate sponsors to deliver a session to really highlight the opportunities available for you as students, and even more opportunities available as Enactus students. So if you aren't already part of the network, we would really encourage you to join. I will explain a little bit as to what Enactus is, but if you are really interested in seeing more sessions like this and seeing what else that you can get involved with at Schroders, then please do register to join the network, and you can do that by heading to enactusuk.org/join. So great place to start. Again, it's that awareness that you're officially an Enactus student, and we'll be able to connect you with a university team. We will give you access to exclusive events such like these, but also mentoring opportunities. We have over 230 industry experts who are all available to coach you as students. You also get to join a society and work with like-minded individuals. So a quick introduction, what is Enactus? So Enactus is the UK's leading combined youth social action and youth social enterprise charity, developing thousands of young entrepreneurial spirits every year. Now, what that means in practice is we aim to be the bridge between the world of work and higher education. And we work to teach skills that can't be taught at university, but are needed for the world of work. So we do that by creating Enactus societies in over 60 universities up and down the UK, working with students to develop projects which benefit people in their local community, but also address the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So by being involved in these projects as a student, you get to have coaching and mentoring from industry experts from our 17 corporate organisations like Schroders, but we also give you the opportunity to elevate your student voice platform, so getting involved with lots of different things, working with Unilever, working with Amazon, working with Schroders, like we said. There's so many different things that you can really be a part of if you join the Enactus network. And we always like to say Enactus students join for 3 reasons. They join to make a difference to their local community, they join to develop their employability skills, or they join to make friends. And even if you join for one reason, we find that you leave having got all 3. So I really hope that this session kind of inspires you to not only to consider a career with Schroders, but also to join the Enactus network to really develop your skills and your experience should you wish to then go to Schroders. So if you are missed right at the start, how you get involved is by registering at enactusuk.org/join. So that's where you can find out all the information. Now, I'm very aware of the time and I'm coming close to my 5 minutes being up. So I will now stop sharing my screen and will pass over to Lauren, who is going to be leading this session and introduce herself.
Well, thank you so much for having me along today. By way of introduction, my name is Lauren Hillier. I work at Schroders, and I'm here today to give you some kind of guidance around not only who we are as a business, but more so on the recruitment side, our opportunities that you could apply for if you are interested, and the process behind that as well. And then hopefully we will have some time towards the end of the session if you have got any questions, and it would be great, you know, if you think of a question that pops up quite early on in the presentation, then do just pop it into the chat, and hopefully Caroline can help facilitate the questions at the end of the session. Sometimes it's better to do that while it's fresh in your mind, because otherwise you may forget. I know I'm very guilty of doing that myself. So in terms of my role at Schroders, I look after all of the early careers recruitment, which involves our graduate and intern programs. We also have a small number of placement year programs just in technology and economics at the moment. And then we also do operate a school leaver program as well, which sort of combines a trainee 1-year program and an apprenticeship, which is a 2-year program. So I know for the most part, everyone on this call, I think, is at university. But if you do have brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, friends that are interested in potentially getting into the industry straight from school, then we also have opportunities available there as well. So do spread the word. So in terms of a brief overview of who we are as an organisation, we sit within the financial services, and we're an investment manager. We're a global investment manager, which means we're operating in parts of the world across the globe, and more on that shortly. But essentially, in terms of what investment managers do, sometimes they're called asset managers, as you can see there on the slide, and we're investing money on behalf of companies and individuals, our clients, and the main aim, the main kind of premise of what we do is really to generate a return on their investments. So looking to sort of grow people's wealth, their assets, their capital over the long term so that they can reach their financial goals. That really is the crux of what we do. And obviously there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but that is essentially in a nutshell what we do. So we invest across a number of different asset classes, including equities, fixed income, multi-asset, private assets, and also alternatives. And there's lots of information online. If you didn't know what those kind of asset classes meant, I'm not going to spend too much time going into the nitty-gritty behind those areas, but I will point you in the direction of Investment 2020. Some of you may have heard of them already, and they're a great organisation that we partner with, actually, who have a whole wealth of articles and blogs and case studies of people that have joined the industry at an early careers level, and really break down what those asset classes mean. So I know that there's a kind of a reputation that goes with the financial services, particularly on the kind of banking side, and we're clearly on the kind of investment management or asset management side. But people think that, you know, working in the financial services, we're all about just making people richer. And we don't really have any second thoughts for how we're investing and are we investing responsibly. But actually, the investment management industry is doing heaps and bounds in terms of what we are investing in terms of some of the companies and people that we're working with. And actually, a lot of the capital that is raised through our investment managers forms a really, really vital part of the economy. We're creating jobs and wealth and goods and services that we need to kind of prosper as a whole in society. So there's a lot that goes on, again, behind the scenes in terms of responsible investing and making sure that the companies that we're choosing to invest in have, you know, those standards set in place to ensure that we are not kind of causing any harm or issues within the wider society. So we're investing in client savings in companies and projects all over the world that need finance to grow their businesses. And actually, as a result of this, investors can then share a part of this growth as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about the wealth management division at Schroders. They're called Cazenove Capital. And one of their key clients or parts of their business is to actually raise capital for charities. So you can see there, and you know, I've only really covered this in a couple of minutes, but you can see already that, you know, we've got a whole dedicated department dedicated to raising capital for charities so that they can then go out and do the great work that they do. So how do we make money as an investment manager? Well, we simply are charging a fee, which is usually based on a percentage of the original investment from our clients, and that's how we generate our income. In terms of who our clients are, these are quite vast. They can include institutional and retail investors, financial institutions like insurance companies, pension companies, and also high net worth individuals. So the Cazenove Capital arm of our business, the wealth management arm, which I just mentioned, they have sort of two main areas: the charities, which I've just mentioned, and also the high net worth individuals and families that they're kind of looking after. So just, I guess, a brief kind of snapshot of Schroders as a business. I quite like some of these stats, so I like to include them in talks that I do to students like yourselves, because I think it creates a really nice kind of overview of our organisation. So I've mentioned that we're a global organisation operating in lots of different countries across the world. And in total, we're looking after £700 billion worth of assets. And we call that assets under management. And sometimes you'll hear the abbreviation AUM. So that's what that stands for. You can see there, £700 billion is a whole lot of money. And with that comes a whole lot of responsibility to our clients to make sure that we are maximising the returns, giving really, really good client service, and ultimately kind of hitting the brief in terms of what they've signed up for. I mentioned that we're a global organisation, but actually our footfall for a global organisation is quite small. So we're 5,000 employees, currently around 2,000 in the UK, which is our head office in London, in Moorgate. And the rest of our population is spread across our global regions. We were started in 1804, so we've got over 200 years worth of investment experience, and I did mention that huge £700 billion worth of assets under management really helps to have incredibly talented people that have been at Schroders for quite some time, and you can see they're actually skipping ahead to the last bucket on the slide. Our employee retention rate is 94%, which means that typically people stay at Schroders. A good example of this is our CEO, Peter Harrison, who joined Schroders some number of years ago now. He left, I think he actually started as a graduate, he did. He left, went to another organisation, and then he came back to Schroders about 6 or 7 years ago to head up the business. So it just shows that people do sort of either stay in the business or make their way back to the business after going elsewhere. So I think that tells a really nice story around the culture and what it's like to work at Schroders as well. And just finally, we're operating in over 30 different countries. So there's lots of information on the website as to where our regional offices are if you are interested. So how do we structure our business? So as you would imagine, the investment part of our business is the biggest part in terms of, the people that work in this area are fund managers, they're fund researchers, and investment analysts as well. We also have a data insights unit, abbreviated to the DIU. You'll get to learn that there's quite a few abbreviations in our business, so I'll try to break those down. And if I don't, you can pull me up on it in the chat, and I'll come back to it at the end. But essentially, that's where the kind of revenue building part of the business sits. We've then got distribution, products and solutions, which are areas around the sales and marketing of the products and the funds that we're using. It's about business development, so distribution is all around kind of relationship management with the clients. Very much client-facing role, and also bringing in new revenue and business as well. And product and solution are kind of teams that work together. Solutions pretty much support the investment business, and really as a whole, they're looking at ways that we can really be and stay competitive within the industry. We've then got quite a huge green box there, which says infrastructure, and that actually means that there's lots of different companies that are at the core, really, behind all of the work that goes on. So these are teams like compliance, making sure that we're complying with regulations. Likewise, we've got risk, so looking at our risk appetite and managing that within the frameworks that sit behind it. We've got the finance teams, we've got HR, which is what I sit in, responsible for kind of bringing in the talent into the organisation, recruiting our grads, our interns, etc., and responsible for paying people, which is quite important. And a number of other teams that kind of underpin the sort of mechanisms of our whole business. And without the infrastructure teams, actually, the investment people couldn't do their jobs, because a whole lot of infrastructure in terms of technology also sits under there as well. I mentioned wealth management, so this is kind of occupied by a company called Cazenove Capital. I think we acquired them about 6 or 7 years ago, so they're part of Schroders, but they've sort of maintained their own brand within Schroders as Cazenove Capital. They have 2 main areas, as I think I've kind of touched upon before. They're looking after our charity organisations, growing wealth and capital for the great work that they do. And also they're looking after our high net worth individuals and families, which as you can probably appreciate, you know, a lot of our revenue is coming in through that route. So those kind of clients require a little bit more of a kind of one-to-one personalised relationship in terms of client management. And that's what those teams do. And then on the right-hand side there, we've also got our global technology teams and group change. So global tech is, as you would expect, all the technology that underpins our organisation. There's a whole range of different areas within global technology, a whole range of different systems, operating cloud systems, etc., and lots of kind of technical skill sets are required under that banner. And then group change, you may or may not have heard of the kind of term group change. This relates to kind of business consultancy. So the people in group change are really looking across the whole organisation to see how we can operate more efficiently and effectively using the technology systems that we've got. So if they're finding that we've got lots of duplication in some of the systems that we're using, or there could be a better provider to be able to do the work that we need to do, then they will come along and work in sort of teams to ensure that we can be more effective, essentially. So I hope I have explained that clearly enough. So that was a bit on Schroders, and happy to take any questions on that part at the end, but I thought what will probably be more useful for everyone on the call today is to really focus for the next 20 minutes or so on our application process at a graduate and intern and placement level, and also sort of give you some guidance around what we're looking for, and also our recruitment process as well. So I mentioned briefly in the introduction, we've got sort of 4 main routes really where we're taking early careers talent into the organisation. We've got the 1-year traineeship programme, which actually is open to graduates as well. It's quite a flexible programme, so if you go onto the traineeship programme, you can essentially be a school leaver that's leaving straight from school. You could be someone that's graduated, or you could have a gap year and essentially use your gap year to get 1 year's worth of work experience at Schroders, and then essentially you may then go on to do university or something completely different. So that's a really flexible option. We also have the apprenticeship programme, which is a 2-year programme, and that's actually a permanent job as well after the 2-year programme finishes. This, I would say, is really solely for school leavers that are quite, sure that they're not going to go on to university, because that's a 2-year programme where you'll get lots of different skills and then a permanent job after that programme finishes. But probably what's more important for everyone on the call today is our internship and graduate programs. So our internship program is a summer placement program, usually taking place at the end of June to mid-August. And this is for students in their penultimate year of study, so second year if you're doing a 3-year course, or you can be a final year student if you are continuing to do a master's after your degree. And really the aim of the 8-week internship programme is to give you real hands-on value-add work in a variety of different business areas. So I covered the business areas on the previous slide, and we pretty much take interns and grads into each of those business areas. So depending on what your interests are, we pretty much have something that we recruit for every year for everyone, really. The internship program is also used as a feeder to the following year grad program. So the idea being that if you do well on the internship, if you get some good feedback from your line manager, you will then be put forward for a final round interview, which, if you're successful off the back of that, gives you a ticket essentially to the grad program the following year once you've graduated. And then the graduate scheme, we also open externally as well. So it doesn't matter if you haven't managed to secure an internship or you haven't had an internship before. You can also apply externally for graduate programs. Clearly, given that we do use the internship program as a feeder, we don't open up as many graduate programs as we would for the internship programs, but we open up the roles where we haven't filled through the internship program. So year on year, typically we're probably opening around 6 or 7 grad programs, which is still a good number, and we just encourage you to apply as soon as possible because they are very, very competitive. So our typical application process here is quite standard, I would say, across the financial services industry and probably a lot of other industries as well. They are quite lengthy in terms of the number of stages that they have. But again, this is quite standard across the industry. So essentially, you will kick off with an online application, as you would for most other roles that you apply for. At this stage, we're just asking for you to upload your CV, and there might be a couple of preliminary kind of questions on the application form, just sort of trying to understand your motivations for applying for a certain business area and your kind of motivations around the role. I would say 99% of people get put forward for the online assessments, which is the second stage of the process. Essentially, as long as you are applying for the role in the year which makes you eligible for it, then essentially everyone sort of gets through to that online assessment stage. At this stage, we have 3 different assessments. So there's a situational judgment test, SJT, which you can see is another abbreviation there. This essentially is giving you a number of different scenarios that you could face on any day at Schroders. And you have to choose an A, B or C response as to how you would likely deal with that situation. There's a behavioural test, sometimes known as a personality type questionnaire. So this is really where we're sort of understanding how you would operate in the workplace and sort of demonstrating some of your personality skills, or traits, I should say. Ignore the numerical. Sorry, I should have taken that off. We don't ask you to complete a numerical test, but a deductive reasoning test we do, which is where we're sort of assessing more of your logical thought processing skills. And this all comes up as one test. You can complete it in around 20 to 25 minutes. You can complete it on a laptop or your phone. And we do provide reasonable adjustments as well if you need more time or anything like that. So just be sure to kind of reach out to us before you start the test if you need any reasonable adjustments being made. And then if you are successful after the online assessment, we'll then send you a link to complete a video interview. And I know at this point, everyone sort of shrieks. It's quite a daunting prospect if you haven't done one before. I will be completely honest, but I would say the more that you do and the more that you practice, the more that just feels quite comfortable and quite normal. And I think actually, given we've had to sort of convert to working from home and having lots of events delivered virtually, I think that's actually well-equipped people because people are so used to now staring into their laptop screens and their cameras as I am now. And it does take some getting used to. So I think the more that you can attend events like this, where you're kind of engaging with people through a screen, will set you up really well in preparation for a video interview. But in terms of what we're asking you at this stage, it's just 4 questions. It was 6, and we've actually reduced that down to 4. You'll be pleased to hear. And these are all based on general kind of competency type questions. So things around sort of demonstrating leadership skills, you sharing examples around where you've been part of a team, for example. So very, very general competency type questions. And then if you are successful at the video interview stage, the final stage for the internship program is an assessment centre. And during the assessment centre, there'll be a case study, a group activity, and also a one-to-one interview. If it's the graduate program that you've applied for, there will be one more final stage after the assessment day, which is a final round interview with someone from the business area that you've applied for a role in, and they're most likely to be at the kind of very senior level in terms of that sign-off piece. So in terms of what we're looking for in you, clearly, you know, these bubbles that you can see on the slide aren't going to be any huge surprises, hopefully. I think a lot of organisations are generally looking for these skills and soft skills as well. So motivation and drive, we clearly want you to kind of be enthusiastic when you're coming through the recruitment process. We want to see that you're hungry to learn, to take on new information, to work with others, and to really have that motivation to pick things up and want to get stuck in, essentially. And just one thing to say around this, you know, we're not expecting you to be experts by any stretch. But what we can teach all of that, essentially. We can teach you the content, we can teach you the systems, we can teach you the knowledge, but what we can't teach you is that motivation and drive and enthusiasm which comes from you yourself. So definitely keep that one in mind. We're also looking for communication skills and teamwork and leadership potential. So for our graduate programs, we're very keen on kind of seeing this as a leadership program. And as I mentioned with the example of Peter Harrison, our CEO, he started as a grad, as did many of our other people in the organisation that have now actually gone up to senior level positions within the organisation. So it's definitely used and seen as a leadership program if you come onto the graduate program. So any way where you can demonstrate your communication skills, where you've led teams, and that doesn't have to be in jobs. If you haven't had a huge amount of work experience, that's absolutely fine. But just have a think about being creative, I guess. So think about, you know, any volunteering work that you've done, any if you've done the Duke of Edinburgh, if you've been involved in sports teams, if you've been kind of doing part-time work as well. So anything that you think you can really sort of deliver on and show your communication and teamwork skills, that would be useful to bring in. We also look for analysis, creativity and decision-making skills. So, you know, depending on what business area you're applying for, you may use these skills in different quantities. You may not need your analytical skills if you're not going into an analytical role. But just kind of pull out in the job description for the business area that you're applying for, pull out the key skills that you think you may get asked questions on, and then from there try to devise a really strong example of where you've kind of shown those skills and grown those skills in the past. And then finally, I think this is quite an important one, commercial awareness. And I think this can really sort of set you apart from other candidates if you bring in your commercial awareness and understanding to the interview process. So, you know, rule number one of preparing for an interview is, you know, look into the company that you're applying for and do your research essentially on the business that you're applying for. But if you can go a little bit further and understand the wider industry and some of the kind of things that are going on in the world at the moment that could be affecting our industry. So, for example, COVID is probably quite a good one at the moment in terms of, you know, how has COVID impacted the way that we do business, how we operate with our clients, for example, and how that could have caused issues, challenges, and things like that. So if you can bring in your broader commercial awareness into your interview process, then that is always a kind of a bonus and useful thing to do. And there's just a kind of a green box on the side there, which I won't go into too much detail on, but that's just giving you some pointers as to how you can start sort of maximising your commercial awareness and understanding of the industry. So just in terms of some deadlines and eligibility criteria for our intern and grad positions, we did take off our UCAS point requirement a couple of years ago in order to be a little bit more inclusive and opening up on the talent that we were probably missing out on. We did have an ABB requirement a couple of years ago and we've taken that off. But what you do need to have is to be on course to achieving a 2-1 in your studies. So obviously if you're applying for an internship program, you wouldn't have got your final grade yet. So if you can indicate on your CV that you're kind of working towards a 2-1 or you're predicted a 2-1, then that's absolutely fine. I mentioned the DIU, the Data Insight Unit, just because of the work that they do ask for a STEM specific degree, and they usually want you to have some kind of programming or coding ability, just because it's a very technical role. Essentially, the DIU are data scientists, and they're using big data and AI and programming languages to advise the investment leads in investment business to advise them on what funds to invest in, essentially. Didn't explain that very well, but hopefully got there in the end. And then in terms of timelines, our 2022 intern and graduate programs are now open in London. I believe that we do, well, I know that we do recruit grads into other regions across the globe. They, I believe, are opening or due to open very, very soon. So if it is international opportunities that you're interested in, then please take a look on the website. We review applications on a rolling basis, so we always apply candidates to get their applications in as soon as possible. And you can also sign up for job alerts. So if you go onto our main Schroders careers page, you'll be able to type in what you're interested in and then select the kind of job alert that you want to receive, so that you are given a heads up, essentially, ahead of anyone else, that the opportunities are open. For our summer internship program, the dates for this are the 20th of June to the 12th of August next year. And our graduate program, if anyone is interested, will start on the 15th of September next year as well. And then one thing I haven't mentioned actually is our Spring Insight program, which is a 2-day industry awareness event that we run in our office in London. And that is open for applications in January 2022, so not too far away now, and that's aimed at first-year students. So if you are a first-year student on the call and you want to sort of get an understanding of what we do, then please make an application for that. So why are we worth your consideration? So hopefully I've sort of covered some of these things earlier on in the presentation. But really, I think if you are looking for an intern or graduate position, these might be some of the things that you want to sort of investigate before applying to certain organisations. And for us, the list is probably quite exhaustive, depending on what your main sort of priorities are in your job search. But some of the things I just wanted to highlight about the Schroders intern and graduate positions is that, very much we see these as future leadership programs, and I've already sort of mentioned this point, but the kind of training and professional qualifications, which is the next point on the slide, really sort of feed into the future leadership point. And we do have a vast range of different opportunities in terms of training and development and progression that you can access during your 8-week internship program or your 2-year graduate program. And I think, leading on from that, you'll be intellectually challenged, so with the training and professional qualifications that you have, but not only that, the kind of networking and exposure that you'll get across the organisation will ensure that you're kind of continually meeting new people, getting different perspectives on things and constantly learning and improving your skill sets. And then finally, just a point on culture. I mentioned the retention rate in terms of people wanting to sort of work at Schroders or tending to work at Schroders for a very long time. I think it is down to the culture, and I'm not just saying that. I think Schroders has been one of my favourite jobs. Really, really enjoy some of the kind of charity partnerships that Schroders invest in to ensuring people give back. We give our employees 2 days CSR days, so that's corporate social responsibility. And essentially what that means is that our employees are given 2 days to give back to the communities that they want to work in. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, me and the team went to the Felix project for a morning of packing up food that was otherwise going to be thrown away, and giving that to people who really needed it. So people that are kind of homeless or people that can't afford to go out and buy food for their family. So it's a really, really worthwhile way of doing something with your team. It's a team building activity, but also feeling like you're giving something back. So I think that's a really, really nice perk that Schroders have. And there's a whole host of other kind of flexible working, lots of well-being stuff. So we've got a gym in our office where people can sort of take the time out of their day to have some me time essentially, and a whole load of other kind of charity partnerships that we're investing in on an annual basis, and lots that you can get involved in terms of the wider culture at Schroders. So I've probably covered some of this, but in terms of what we can offer you, we've mentioned the training and professional qualifications. With the internship program, there isn't necessarily a professional qualification that goes alongside that program, but there are a number of networking events and soft skills training. With the graduate programs, most of our graduates do the CFA qualification, and they also study towards the investment management certificate as well. To go alongside the kind of face-to-face training and professional qualifications that we offer, we also have a really, really great online curriculum of online learning called Spark. And this is great for you to kind of, once you're in the business, you can log on if you've got 20 minutes before your next meeting and you feel like you want to brush up on your Excel skills or your pivot table skills, or it could be kind of soft skill training as well. You can go on there and find a whole host of different snapshot sessions to upskill your learning. There's lots of social events. So with the intern program and also the graduate program, they are given a small amount of budget to do 1 or 2 social events during the year. And that enables you to not only meet your cohort of grads, but the previous cohort of grads as well. So really giving you an opportunity to network across those graduate cohorts. Great culture and flexible working. So I have mentioned that quite a lot on the previous slide, so won't labour that point too much. We also have a gym on our 6th floor in the building, and that's accompanied also by a private GP and a dentist as well. So, you know, it is quite difficult these days to get an appointment booked in with your local GP. So that has come in handy for a lot of people I know over the course of the time that they've been with Schroders. And it's very, very easy. Essentially, if you're in the office, you can just pop down after making an appointment, and they can prescribe medication as well. So they're just in-house doctors, fully qualified and fully confidential. I've mentioned the volunteering days, so won't again labour that point. And then we also have very competitive salary and benefits package. Like many other financial services companies, we don't disclose the exact salary. But we do review this every year, and it's, you know, from our perspective, it's very, very competitive across other asset managers. There's a little picture of the gym that you can see there that's just popped up on the right-hand side. That's only half of the gym, actually. There is a whole other half, a spin studio, another studio for classes, and also a weight section as well, if you are interested. So I think this is one of my final slides, just in terms of the kind of breadth of skill sets and opportunities across the organisation. I mentioned that we recruit into pretty much every area of our business. So as you can see there, there's quite a number of different areas on the slide, and technically we're kind of recruiting into each of those on an annual basis at an intern or grad level. And that's me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing these slides so that I can see everyone's faces and also the chat as well. I hope that has been useful in terms of giving everyone a bit of an overview as to who we are, but also more importantly, our recruitment process as well. So happy to take any questions. I don't know how we should do this, Caroline.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just trying to get the chat.
Yeah, we've got a couple in the chat, and I've got a couple that I've been sent to directly. But if anybody would like to raise their hand and ask a question, more than welcome to. Oh, I can see that. Prashesh, do you like to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. That was a wonderful presentation about Schroders. I just had 2 questions. Do you offer off-cycle graduate opportunities? So for example, now your graduate program starts in next September, 15th of September. Do you offer any off-cycle graduate opportunities which will be starting in like few months or maybe earlier next year?
Thank you. No, we don't offer off-cycle internships or grad programs, unfortunately. We are only a 2-person team, so we have to sort of stick to the kind of set timelines for our graduate cohorts. We typically take around 30 interns and 30 grads each year. So as you can imagine, that's quite a big job to kind of organise an 8-week programme and get everyone in on the same time for inductions and things like that. So yeah, at the moment we don't offer off-cycle. It's just the June start date for the interns and the September for the grads.
Perfect, thank you. One more quick question. How is the internal mobility during the graduate program if I want to move between departments? For example, I want to move from investment to wealth management. Is it possible in my graduate, like the graduate scheme?
So we do, there's a whole, at an experienced higher level and outside of the early careers programs, there's a lot of focus at the moment on internal mobility. And that's not to say that it's not there at the early careers level, but what we're really looking for in our early careers populations that are coming in, we want you to be firstly applying for a business area that you're keen to sort of build a career in at that early stage. Of course, you know, we're human. People change their minds and you might get in on a kind of distribution program and then decide actually you want to go into a different area. It's not to say that you can't do it, and I know that on a number of after the 2-year program is finished, a number of grads have gone to different business areas. I think from the kind of manager's perspective, they obviously have put 2 years of investment into you, skilling you up, training you. So they would love to see that you want to stay in that area. But obviously we need to be quite flexible as well as to, you know, people's career aspirations that do change over time. So I would say it's on a case-by-case basis. It is flexible. But we would ask you to think about the kind of career path that you are looking to go down and being quite sure on what you're applying for before you apply.
Bella's got a great
so
question. Oh, thanks, British. I don't know if they've just raised their hand, so I'm not sure if they want to ask it themselves, but I think if it's the one in the chat, it says, what are some suggestions on how we can demonstrate commercial awareness on our CVs?
Yep, that's a good question. I would say it's about attending events like this as well that can broaden your commercial awareness. So if you're involved in the Enactus series of events, obviously you're on the one today, so that's great. I would definitely make a note on your CV that you've attended these industry insight events because, you know, you're getting to meet people from different industries, you're learning from them. But also in addition to that, you know, you've got the option on your CV to say what your hobbies and interests are. You could list your interests as, you know, reading, you know, this is a really obvious one, but reading the Financial Times regularly. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a bit more innovative. You might be managing your own portfolio. So anything that you can do to show that you have got that kind of ambition around this particular industry. You know, books that you've read, you know, detailing authors and the books themselves, podcasts. I know that there's quite a few podcasts going on at the moment and being introduced. I couldn't give you any names. I've completely gone blank, but I know that that's a growing area for the investment management industry as well. So yeah, there's a number of ways that you can make that clear. And I think also in the interviews, you'll have a really good chance to demonstrate further as well.
Great, thank you. Emma, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So it was a bit of a confused question because I'm doing a master's in law. And I know there aren't any specific law-based roles, but I've checked the compliance and risk internship and graduate scheme, and that mentions law. Would you think it'd be best for me to just directly apply to that?
Yeah, potentially. You're right. We don't have a legal graduate program, but we have a department which covers compliance, legal and governance. We typically take trainees into the governance team, so that might be an option that you want to sort of consider. The trainee positions, we open our roles in January each year for a September start. But otherwise, you know, compliance has a lot of kind of segue really into legal, as you probably know from studying it. So if you wanted to direct any kind of specific questions about the program and the rotations that you might do, we can get someone to come back to you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And then we've had a question which says, can you share a typical day in the life of an intern at the company? Bit of a broad question.
Very broad, very, very broad. And at this point, I wish we had an intern on to comment, but I think I'm going to have to give a very broad answer because we do take interns into all areas of our business. So the work that they could be doing individually on a day-by-day basis is going to be very different. But essentially what I will say about the internship program is that, you know, you're not just seen as someone that can collect the printing from the print room or someone that can go and make the team a cup of tea. You are from day one set objectives on what you want to achieve and what your line manager wants you to achieve. And you can really sort of steer this conversation into, you know, what do you want to get out of it? And from there, you're given around 3 different professional objectives. So these are sort of based on the work and the tasks that you'll be doing during your 8 weeks. And then 3 personal objectives where these might be kind of, you know, you want to improve your confidence in presenting, or you want to improve your network across the financial services industry. So I would say it's pretty much led by you, and we have a whole host of supportive managers that can really help drive the kind of value that you add from day one on the program. So you will get to do the work of the team, essentially, what the other team members are doing. You'll support and get stuck in with that.
Great, thank you. And then we've had a lot of questions about visas, and I wondered if you were able to clarify or direct people to find out more information.
Yeah, so with visas, previously it was quite difficult for us to sponsor international students on visas, just because of the kind of numbers of applications that we get. They sort of classed it as not a competitive skill set area, and that we could, you know, find the talent that was homegrown in the UK. But now I believe they have made it, the Home Office have made it a little bit easier for us to sponsor visas internationally. So again, I think this is all going through as a new change at the moment. I don't think anyone's completely clear on what's going on with that, but I think it will be easier for us to sponsor visas.
Great, thank you. Alexa, do you want to go next? I see your hand's raised.
Yes, I would like to ask you a question. So I'm on a 3-year course, but I think that I will take a year abroad, so it's going to be 4 years. So it means that I can't apply for a summer internship in 2022.
So remind me when you're graduating, including your year?
In 2024, but I have a year abroad, so it's not a standard in my degree.
Okay, so you're doing a 4-year course technically, including the year. So you would still be able to apply this year for a 2023 position, and then we would be able to, I'm just trying to think out loud. Oh God, I've gone completely blank now. The years are getting so ahead of me because we're in 2021, but we're recruiting for 2022. So if you're doing a 4-year course, it's essentially the same as someone in their final year. So actually, no, you would need to apply next year for the internship program. Sorry, it took me a long time to get there.
for this year, I can apply to the Spring Week program, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Giorgio, did you have a question?
Yes, my question was similar to the one of Alexa, because I'm on a second year student. So basically I will do the placement next year. And I know that you offer only placement for the technology division. And so the question was if I can apply for the spring week this year and then apply for the summer next year, or if I'm eligible for the summer. But you have answered already to Alexa, so I think I'm eligible for the spring week and I will apply in January if it's possible. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. And then just on another question on eligibility, are master's students able to apply for the graduate schemes? Or is it just...
definitely.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. And then, another question, is it possible to apply for multiple roles? I imagine that would be multiple, like either graduate schemes or multiple spring insight streams. Or...
So we would encourage you only to apply for one business area, one role, just because we get thousands of applications, and if you're applying for 6 or 7 different grad roles, it sort of sends a confused message to us as to what you actually are interested in, but also causes us a lot of duplication and a lot more numbers of applications to get through, which then means that we can't come back to you as quickly as we want. So yeah, if you could just be sure on the business area that you're interested in and apply for that, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. And then Miguel's also asked if the Spring Insight application involves all of the same stages of application that your graduate scheme does.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, it doesn't. It's not. It's because it's only a 2-day program. We only ask you to submit your CV and answer a couple of questions. There's no assessments and video interview.
Great, thank you.
Or assessment day.
And then, as a mature student, could I apply to an internship if I'm in my 2nd year? But then, if so, do you know if any other mature students have done this in the past?
Good question. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't stop mature students applying for any of our programs. I think typically, on the whole, I think the kind of vast majority of applications that we receive are from students that have sort of just graduated at maybe 21, 22, depending on when you started. So yeah, as long as you are happy with that, in being a little bit more mature, in a cohort of some younger people, then yeah, we don't mind, and ultimately we would encourage you to apply.
Fantastic. I think that is the main ones. Oh, I've just had somebody else come through. Let's have a quick check. Oh yeah, no, it's just a thank you. So there we go. I think I've addressed a lot of those, or similar to. If I've not got your exact question, hopefully you've still got an answer some way. So I think Eli's question is about if he has a master's in business in the UK, but his initial degree is from another country, will he still be able to apply for your graduate schemes?
Yeah, that's fine. We often look, because there's sometimes different scoring and degree classifications, so we usually just do a quick Google comparison to see that you're kind of eligible and at that 2-1 level. But yeah, ultimately it doesn't really matter where you study, as long as you are sort of hitting that eligibility 2-1 criteria.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I think that is it for questions at the minute. So
Great.
I guess all that's left to say is thank you so much, Lauren. It's been really insightful to gain so much knowledge about Schroders and all the different streams that are available to our students. I know there's a lot of information asking if this session's recorded. It is. If you've registered via the Employability Fair website, we'll be able to send this recording to you in the next few weeks. So please don't worry if you've missed any of the information that Lauren went over today. There will still be a chance. But for now, I guess that is everything. Unless, Lauren, you've got any final thoughts?
No, just was going to say, happy for anyone to follow me on LinkedIn. I often do quite a few posts about when we've just opened our applications, so that might be one more way where you're not missing out on the application window and when that is. So yeah, happy for anyone to direct questions to me via that platform as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been great to have you on board, and hopefully we'll see you soon at some of our other employability fair sessions. But for now, goodbye.